What are the best small business loans with no credit check for 2023 without collateral and up to $10,000 in 10 minutes, more or less, instant approval, walking away with your funding the same day that you can use for your business to continue to grow and expand, build, get out of a tight pinch, and not have to stress out, have a peace of mind knowing you have this and can relax more easily. Your health, your relationships improve because of this and so much more. Hi, welcome in. This is Michael with Viral Funding Solutions. I'm a business funding expert, business loan broker expert, as well as pre-underwriter slash underwriter who's been able to thankfully and gratefully help out a lot of people and their businesses navigate this treacherous landscape that it can be out there trying to figure it out all on your own. You make mistakes after mistakes and not having to fall through all of these loopholes and just trying to go about it in a way that's not constructive. It's not ethical. People overpromising and under delivering and bait and switching you. You get people who are selling you. I'm not a salesperson by any means. You'll learn a little bit about my background as we go forward with this video. But today, what I'm going to go through is this document you see on the screen. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to show you just a little bit right now, but we're going to go through this and cover what I believe to be the number one option if you're looking for a business loan without a credit check, no credit requirements whatsoever, personal and business as well. And that's a great addition. And if you're doing this because you have bad credit, or perhaps it's good credit, but you don't want to have your credit checked, and a few other instances, there's a lot of people that do come to me who have bad credit trying to find these solutions because there are issues. There are things where maybe you're missing payments or it has to do with fraud. Something was hacked. You're in the process of getting things fixed, removed, inquiries, a lot of things going on. And you just have to be cautious about who you give your information to. That I completely understand. I know what it is like just getting started. And if you are a startup looking for a business loan, what do you do? Where do you go? Is that even available? The banks will decline me. I can't go get approved there, or I can, but it's limited. It's not enough. It's not as resourceful. They don't get it. But I need an alternative and a private lender, somebody that can finally help. I need these funds as quickly as possible. I'm going to cover a lot of this. But before I do get into any of the juicy details, I'm going to want to go over what you should be cautious of. Have you ever gone to Google and typed in no credit check business loans or something similar along the lines, maybe a more specific keyword in terms of a company name or something of the specific service you knew you were looking for? And you've done this, you've scrolled down. I've done this before. I don't do it any longer. And so you go down here, you find articles, not saying that they're not legit or not being ethical, but then you begin to click on things. Perhaps you click on these videos, keep scrolling maybe to the next page or two. Maybe you're on Bing or a different search engine, but maybe you click on one of these ads. You click on it and you go in there, you learn a little bit, you come back out, you click another one, or you just stay with the first one you found, or whatever you decided to do. You give them your information and now they're bombarding you. Now they're checking up on you. You get text messages, you get emails from a very generic response, or you do get somebody. But at the end of the day, do you know who that person is? I'm not speaking about the entity of the company. A lot of us can find a company and go, oh, yeah, that's a company that can give us loans or credits or collateral backed funding solutions. How about liquidity and equity? Anybody can do that. But what you need to be cautious of in this market, and it's always been this way too, is understanding the who is the person running that organization, who's the CEO, who's the owner. Have I had any kind of communication with them? Can I communicate with them directly, or have they completely removed themselves, which isn't bad? But do I know who I'm working with? That's what ultimately you need to know, and that'll give you the most peace of mind. And knowing who they are as a person, their core value and values, their principles, what governs them in life and in business, what are their beliefs, what's their identity, who is their identity, what is their behavior like? Their behavior drives their identity. How's their character? How's their characteristic traits? See, if you don't understand any of that, you're just making a decision based only on the entity and then just marketing and putting features and benefits in front of you about how, yeah, we can try to get you a line of credit. Just send the bank statements and then send the copy of your driver's license and a voided check. And they have like 30 people that work for them. And it's like, okay, but do you know anything about that person that is helping you? Have you ever asked them, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Or if you don't have to, that's fine. They went away, they went and willingly did that. And for me, guys, I'm an introvert. It's very hard for me to open up that way. I'm very cerebral. I don't talk much. I actually do more. So I'll share with you why me and why a lot of people turn to me. But just going through a lot of this on Google, and you have to understand how much they're paying for a lot of this. Not saying that it's wrong to advertise. I've had my fair share, but it doesn't always make sense to go and just click on an ad. If you're clicking on the wrong one, that's even worse. And you're giving them your information, and you got to read the reviews, not only the positive, if there are any, but the lower ones, and see other things about what they're doing. And understand the different entities. What's a brokerage? What's an individual ISO? A brokerage? There's a lot of little things, and a lot of things that go into this on this side as well. So I'm going to go into this document now, but just so you know, there are options really quickly like PayPal Working Capital, there's Spotify Square Capital Loans. There are a few others out there too that you could go through where they do no credit checks. However, a lot of the times, just understand that you're still going to be personally liable. A lot of the time, you'll still be personally guaranteed on this other side. Some of the other ones, there might not be any personal guarantees, but you have to have an adequate supply of PayPal capital or PayPal commissions or the amounts of sales you're generating underneath them for you to be able to qualify, and things within 90 days, a 90-day period. Other ones expect 10, 15, 20,000 and above annually. It's not asking for that much. But if you have everything and you hold everything to one platform and you're expecting them to continue to give you money, and what you're getting is a daily, usually repayment, and you're getting a daily repayment based upon how many sales you generate in a day. So if you're generating more gets taken out. Less gets taken out. None, usually none does, which is controllable and feasible. But there are other ways. There's a fixed percentage, or there's also a fixed daily amount that comes out every single day or a weekly. That's how a lot of these work when you're talking about small business loans with no credit check. The actual terminology for it, it's called merchant cash advances, no credit check, or cash advances, no credit check. You could also say hybrid cash advances, which means all the revenue coming into the business. Some of these other platforms like PayPal or some of the other ones may only strict you and limit you to only credit card processing, the credit card payments that do come in that you're generating and receiving that from your clients and your own customers. And there's other ways that can actually help with getting a lot more and more flexibility, a better relationship with the private lenders, what I always recommend, and then growing from that. And a cash advance, in case you didn't know, is where this is based on your future receivables. So based upon what you're projected to make, the lender will take a portion of those receivables. So predictability is very important in this industry, in the pattern. And what I look at when I look at cash flow, bank statements, and a lot of things is seeing how much is going in versus what's going out, when's it coming in, the periods that it is, the dates, the type of money that's coming in and going out, the average daily bank balance, the starting and ending. I do my own calculations as well, but a cash advance is based on your future receivables, and there's usually a fixed percentage or a fixed daily or weekly. There's never, or very rarely do you see biweekly or monthly, although there might be one or two out there that I'm very connected with, but they don't normally lend like that. It's very, very rare. You have to have a very high revenue business, cash flowing, average daily bank balances, but a lot more than just that, credit and other details. And it's just hard to get in this market as well. And if you're looking for a no credit check, this is the way to go. Other ones like bank term loans, SBA loans, equipment loans, traditionally, you're going to see a lot of the time they're going to ask for a credit check and for guaranteeing it for multiple partners, depending on the percentage, but a lot of the times they'll have to guarantee it. But that's just common. Just be accountable, be responsible at the end of the day. If you need to get your credit repaired, I'll leave information for you down below. You can see all the details. I have this down to a science, guys. Don't worry. I don't want you falling into a trap of people going into ads. And sometimes it's fine to run through an ad and go through it if you find the right person. And so doing this correctly does a lot, but there's a lot of people who are doing shady tactics, and the majority don't really understand how to put their own selves in front. And a lot of them just hide behind something. And whether that's good or bad, you have to be careful. So down here, and I made a video on this specific service. I'm going to try to link you to down below so you can check it out. But note, the application will be at the bottom of this document. But if you already have the understanding of the requirements and all needed, you can get started here with the application. And I might have that in the other video that you watch, and you're going to get some specific requirements here today. So self-employed, 1099, gig worker, contractor funding for all small businesses. There are a few things to update on this document, but it's all there for the most part, and I'll just kind of add on to as we go. If you're using a personal account for business, this is your only option. Not just your option, it is your only option. Just understand this. No credit checks. You can use a personal account. You're a small business. You're self-employed. You're an Uber driver, Lyft, grocery delivery shopper, mystery shopper, for all that. And you're thinking, I can use my personal account. Great. That's a great step, especially in the very beginning if you're getting started. and you're thinking, well, I don't have a business account. I don't know how serious I'm going to be about this business, or I just haven't had a chance to move over. This is a great addition, but we also have to understand, like, how are you adding funding into that account, or how are you putting the revenue into that account? What's coming in from? Where is it coming in from? Are you commingling funds? A lot of people tell me that they have 3 different contracting things, and they have their main thing, and it's like a lot of money comes in from the contracting position, but not the main entity that they're applying under. So it's like it can't be evaluated equally with those and taking that revenue into account like that. So down here, uh, somewhat new, but there are new things that always spur up an exclusive partnership, especially with this one. Others may have access to a specific lender like this, but I have an exclusive partnership where they can lend out to more as well. They may grow into that with others in time, but this is something that's really good and helps out a lot of people. So whether it is done in 10 minutes, more or less, that also depends on how fast you go through it. And I'll go through some of the things here. But 1099 gig workers, independent contractors are welcome. Small businesses of many types, shapes, and sizes, small to medium, usually preferred. A lot of small businesses go through this. And more, you'll be able to get up to 10,000 without needing to have a business checking account, with a disclaimer, not saying you will get 10,000. That's on a case-by-case basis if you qualify. Amount used for business, that's right. You can use a personal account for business, or business too if you have one with lower revenue. And the minimum revenue requirement is $3,000 per month. Okay. And I know if you're watching as a startup, you might be thinking, I'm going to go away. Don't go away just yet, because this is education. A lot of people right now have a very short temper, or they have a very short fuse, or their attention span just goes away quickly because it's just a scurry and go market right now. And if you're in business now and you're having troubles with cash flow reserves, liquidity issues, that's a major concern in this market for many industries. Trucking, probably one of the worst, because so many of them need emergency funds, not only 3, but 6 plus 12 months out now. It hasn't only become 3 to 6, but 12 plus months out. And a lot of conditions happening, economic factors, but that's just one industry. There are many others that I've serviced, and I know all of the reasons why people need funding when it comes down to it, what they need it for. What's your major problem? What's your problems? What's the subset to the major one you're currently going through right now? And why are you seeking funding to help you with that? Is it a funding issue, or is it a more internal accounting budgeting issue? Is it something that you need to understand how to work with the current margins you have, or move money here, increase the pricing here, and do a little bit more there? There's a lot of little things that I've helped out people with. And so 3,000 a month. And if you are a startup, there are startup solutions out there. But when you're looking for a small business owner as a startup, it's hard to go through just a traditional cash advance or any kind of small business loans with the bank, since they require like 250,000 minimum in gross revenue, and preferably in the last 2 to 3 years, if not 1 year. But they're going to have stricter credit requirements, and you got to meet things on the business liquid credit score if you don't have that. And there's other details, profitability and historical financials, especially when you get to an SBA loan level. So what can you do if you are a startup? Well, for one, you're working your way up to that revenue range. What are you currently doing? We have to look at how to maximize what you're doing and minimize at the same time. But here, I have this questionnaire form, and I'm going to link it to you down below in the description. If you filled this out and I got back to you, that's one thing. If I haven't, because I've been quite busy at times, that's fine. You're working with the expert. Think about your opportunity cost of what you are foregoing. Expert, somebody who does care about you as a person and your health, relationships, who wants to know you, your core values, your beliefs, your system, because character is everything to me. A lot of people out there are going to throw you under the bus. You don't qualify, go ahead, goodbye. And they might check in with you, but all they talk about is transactional. Do you want just transactional? I don't want that. I don't just give my business to anybody. I don't go to a real estate agent and I just give them my business without at least knowing a little bit about them, and if they are the right person that I want to align myself with, not even the business, the person. And so you have to be cautious. And I'm a very loyal person. I have a lot of integrity. I'm a Libra, if that says anything. Very emotionally controlled. Again, the very analytical, cerebral type. And a lot of people love that because I don't talk much. I just do. And what I tell you, I get it through a very precise way without running over my words, without pressuring you like others do, because they're traditionally at that and they have a background in something where they're just being pushed to do it. It's their job to do it. Or if they're on their own business, then it's like, okay, they are that way. They're materialistic, or they're this way about it. You don't want that with somebody. You want confidence. Whenever I help people out, it's like it's a whole fresh breath of air. And a lot of people will tell me that I'm very thankful for, and I'm very grateful for hearing that. And it's good. And like I don't always have to hear, like I'm a read between and hear and see between the lines type of person, and I want to really help you maximize the amount of funding you could get, whether it's now and or in the future. I have your back. Don't worry about that. And be cautious of what you find out there, especially not just Google, but other search engines, even YouTube videos, blog posts, a lot of outdated information. You have to be very cautious of that. And so I'll have this questionnaire, excuse me, and it'll look like this more or less. And even if you're not a startup, you can go through this like a lot of people have. There are just some of the results I've helped generate. There are many more, but I just put a handful of them. And you can see here how it would work, more or less the process. And you will also get a free 6-step pre-approval lending checklist and 900 plus, more or less, that gets updated, exclusive free grant documentation list. Just think about having your hands on a large Excel or a large Google Doc or wherever it is placed that's rotating monthly. Things get updated, things that'll show you that's continuous, discontinuous. If you need help putting together a grant document, putting together a proposal, a few other things together, what's the process going to be like? You're in the right environment, culture, and ecosystem for this to make it work. And at no charge, I'm going to give you that. Wow. And then you're getting a free 6-step pre-approval lending checklist that I've brought down to a science that I've worked on for many years. I still update and iterate, and I'll have everything up to date for you. So you can click one of these two options, the one that applies to you. I'll click non-startup. I have multiple businesses just in case you were wondering, and I'll kind of try to go through that at the end. So I understand the problems. I have a digital marketing agency, lead generation business, one in the health affiliate marketing space, helping people with vitamins and supplements, pain relief creams, a lot of things too. Others in the affiliate verticals, helping business owners understand different systems. Also other ventures. Now, this has been my primary focus and mission as a business funding expert. And I see a lot of people going through trouble. When I started seeing a lot of that myself, and then people going through it themselves, online marketplaces, typing into Google and doing other things that are not appropriate. If you ran into mine, if I was advertising on there, I'm not saying that I would always be the number one, but usually it will be once you understand the culture and the ecosystem that I'm not transactional. And so a lot of people follow through with that, especially if they've seen my content. And you know about me. I'll leave more about my story down below in the description if you'd like to check that out too, or over time you can learn. But get the funding your business needs fast, complete the questionnaire form below. And I'm gonna just let you look at that quickly. I'm gonna go back to the document here in a second. But if you're serious, I don't want people wasting my energy and time. I'm very proficient, efficient, disciplined, and punctual like no other, very organized. And I think my words through carefully. I'm a very in my head person. I'm a very cerebral, in my head, thoughtful type of person. So gives you some of the information there that we spoke about in the last video at the end. And then you can fill out some simple funding details. And I know how to pre-underwrite / underwrite. So what happens is without looking at bank statements already, once I have that, it's done pretty much. And I know what will happen. Communication with the underwriting team, the lending department, and the lender, and the other departments in that. And I could have been myself a full-time underwriter. That's my personality, but the opportunity cost on this end, like I like the back end work more than anything, but there's an opportunity cost of doing it this way and for time freedom and energy freedom, those things I couldn't always be on call and for a lot of those things. So our services, I have many more as I stated there. The key benefits, this could change or look different over time. A video, maybe it's there or not, it changes. But what happens is then I will be able to, based off of what you've answered on credit, cash flow, collateral, liquidity, equity, different forms of funding, I'll know. And I'm not a creditor. This is not an application. This is very safe and secure. So I'm not an application. I'm not a creditor. And I'll be able to put together a very highly personalized and customized email response, usually including a PDF showing you your best funding option and options, detail per detail to these services, credit, cash flow, collateral, and more. Multiple options underneath credit, cash flow, collateral. And if not, okay. But if so, I'm going to tell you which one is best. I'm going to position it that way. Ignore the other two because of this. It's not worth it. You don't qualify for other reasons. And you'll be able to get started. Everything. And showing you information not even publicly released out there. Things that you just couldn't find by searching on Google. People just listing them. Those people are getting paid by putting those lenders on their platform. Those lenders are getting benefit from that because they're getting traffic. So they're bringing them in. Doesn't mean that they're the best. You're giving them their information. I can't just start putting names of companies out there. And I've made reviews of those companies before. You could check out the channel. I might leave some of it down below in the description. But I'll let you know. I'll put it back. I'll give it back to you. Usually it's 100 or so page PDF. Don't get overwhelmed. I'll show you where to look. Page 3, option 1. On page 10 or so is the application. Get started. If that's how I ask for it, there might be a link. Everything on our back end then is reviewed. We'll review. Or I ask for things up front. But you'll know everything. You can reuse this over and over. And if things get updated with your business, you can resubmit the form for that. And then boom, we go from there. So down here are more details. Same day funding up to $10,000. With this specific lender, with other partnerships, they may only go up to $5,000, $2,500, more or less. They might not push that far up. So the approval amount equals 25% to 75% of your monthly revenue. are the approvals. And one thing too to note, as we went into in the beginning earlier about startups, there is credit-backed solutions. Even if you are a non-startup, there's credit-backed solutions, there's collateral. Do you have real estate, commercial real estate, or investment real estate that you own free and clear? We can work on that, perhaps do a cash out refinance if it absolutely made sense to. Because of the conditions right now, a lot of people wouldn't want to do it. But if it made absolute sense for the return on your investment, purchasing a business, you got to use real estate to liquidate or whatever you're doing to have cash on hand to then have a multiplier on that business. You will recover, you'll get more real estate, you'll get better real estate. There's other solutions, there's credit back, but you want to usually have good credit. If you need to work on your credit, we can do that. So let's say, for example, if you're doing 3,000 in monthly revenue on your lowest month in the last 3 months or 90 days, you could say, but you're generating, let's say, $3,000. You barely meet the minimum quota on this. Okay, but your credit is 700 on all three consumer credit bureaus. What are you using the funds for? Ultimately, that's the question. For one, what is a major problem you're dealing with? Why are you seeking funding? How many, we can get even into the nitty gritty of it, like how many customers can you retain every month? How many customers can you work with every month? And we could break it down backward to determine your net, your gross, a lot of other things with margins. But for this is what are you exactly using the funds for? What ROI do you expect to get out of it? What are your current margins and what would they be like? Would they go forward? Would they go backwards? Would they stay the same? And so if you're like, okay, I'm only going to get approved 1,500, well, I have better credit. Maybe you start off with 50,000 under credit, and that you're shooting for 100,000, but you can start off with 50,000. You're going to order some inventory. You got some pallets coming in, but you can order the rest in time. Maybe you get an additional amount here. Maybe use this to pay down the utilization on your credit card or credit cards. There's more things than just this, but you're going to use your credit, obviously, and always you're going to use your credit for a lot of different funding solutions. Even though you don't see that there are credit checks here, there might be that in time later on, but usually there's no credit checks. And so you could possibly get approved with the disclaimer if you were to use your credit and it's in better position, or you use a credit partner. And we can cover that in time. I'll show you this, especially in that PDF. Like, oh, I'm only going to get 1,500 here. I have people who do this all the time. They say, well, even if they're doing 25, 20,000, 15,000 a month, and they barely just started or they've had some time in business, but they have credit, and they're like, yeah, I can get 75 to 100,000 0% interest business credit cards. Or even if I got a personal loan, I can get probably closer to 75,000. I'll take that chance because I really needed the money and say, well, I'm going to be able to keep my payments low. It's not like I'm going to be getting a highly withdrawal or a daily high withdrawal or a weekly or another form, and I can maintain this better. Or I'm in the phase of testing and experimentation, and I just added a new piece of revenue with catering to my restaurant business, but I don't know how that's going to go. I got to add towards marketing. I don't know exactly how that'll work. I've marketed before, but I don't know what my lifetime gross profit value to cost per acquisition and customer acquisition costs will exactly be. If my return will be right. So there's a lot of little things you got to understand, and just sometimes you just have to begin here, and it's not wrong to. And you just have to take it bite by bite and start off with what you can. You might not always get everything, but you got to start off. That's what a lot of people do, and work your way and come back and get more. And I can help you with that as well. And with the relationships that I have with personal and business, a lot of these lenders, like that is already cemented. Approval amounts, again, 25 to 75% of your monthly revenue are the approvals. Rule of thumb is what it is at 25 to 75%. Your first time borrowing, you're a higher risk. Average daily bank balances are low. Negative days, too many negative days. Like there's other things to account for as well. So you might not get up to 75%. You might only start off with 30 to 40% with only 3 months that you can take. And so if you needed more funding, just so you know this, there are other options out there past $10,000. This isn't the only one you're limited to, obviously. But with the other ones, they're going to ask for credit checks. And there's nothing wrong with that. As low as a 450, ideally 500, if not 550 plus is the ideal. And if you're doing $15,000 on your lowest monthly revenue in the last 90 days, sometimes it's 4 months, depending on the states, then that's where we're going to go in for other lenders at that lower revenue range. If you're doing 25, if you're doing 50,000, there's buckets to this. The higher revenue, the better lender. You go A, B, C, D, E, whatever lender you're getting depends on your underwriting details on what you have and what you potentially could get, but you got to work your way up, and there are ways of doing that. So obviously there's more funding. It's not just 10,000. If you need help with that, also go through this down below in the description. But if you needed to start off with less, you have a personal account, maybe you do more, but you don't have a business account, you're using a personal account, that's where this option comes into play and a few other things. So example, you do 14,000 in monthly revenue, then the advance equals $10,000 advanced. Of course, it could be lower depending on your situation. Average pricing of this is what we see, 1.39x your dollar amount. This is based off of factor rates, not a traditionally amortized remittance business loan like banks, SBA loans, lines of credits, through the bank, fintech, and a few others. This is not a technically saying business loan. This is a cash advance based on your future receivables. A lot of this doesn't normally show up on your personal credit report until you've defaulted or you've missed your payments and now you've been in a default with the past default judgment in place. And they're a lender that can work if you have defaulted in the past. But if you have to fix issues right now of your credit and you have higher revenue, you expect to go to a different lender and your credit isn't in position, perhaps you're on the data merge or some issues with fraudulent activity, they can't understand how to analyze the documentation. There's a lot of things that don't look right on your statements, whether it was caused by you or not. Something has to get fixed before you can go through the process. So that's what it looks like there. Then the advance equals 10,000 advance, and it could depend on that on the situation. Average pricing again 1.39. So let's say you get 20,000. Let's put the 1.29 easy example. You're going to be paying back about $29,000 to $30,000 on that. So would you be able to afford repaying back 29,000 when it's broken down weekly or daily? Could you afford that? How much are you already depositing on a daily? What about on a weekly? Are you only depositing bi-weekly so you can't afford to take on a daily repayment because of how your business is structured at the moment or has always been? So what are the other solutions? Do you take less instead? You go and say, like a lot of business owners go, well, I can't start off with 100,000. Well, if you're giving up to 100,000 or you were given that flexibility, so how about I start off with 50,000? That's going to drop my repayment. I think it'll drop it by more than half. If I'm going to be paying, expecting to be paying like $400 or $500 plus, can I pay maybe at most $250 or $300, no more than that? Can I start off with that? Maybe I start off with 50, 25,000 to begin with, order as much as I need to, use it for the primary use. I'm still going to increase my margins, but maybe not as a whole, but then you come back and get more that you need to. Maybe it's the way you're depositing your money for invoices or for other reasons, and you need the money into the account. You're not getting that money like you used to from your vendors and your suppliers and all this other stuff that you owe, that you need to get, account receivables, liquidity issues. There's a lot of things that come up that can stop your stunt of your cash flow and not having enough operating cash flow. And that's a whole nother subject of its own, is going over to see why that's limited. And if you're putting any into the savings, and what are you doing every single month to meet your goals so you have enough in reserve where you don't always have to take out a loan or an advance or any other kind of funding, any kind of debt, etc. But there's a time and a place when you do need that to scale, to grow. You get capped out for your cash flow and a lot of other reasons. So it can be as low as that and as high as 1.69, but we see a 1.5 at most when the revenue is better. Example, you get 1,000, you pay back 1,390 on average. Example number 2, you receive $10,000 and you pay back $13,900 on a 1.39 rate, usually cost of fund being 900 or so. Repayment discounts are available if you pay back early. Automatic weekly payments. Other lenders in this will do daily. Perhaps you're familiar with those. And again, be cautious of who you're working with. Don't just go give people your information anywhere and everywhere. Even if it's just a soft pull, it ends today because they communicate. They see this with one another, and they decline a lot of files because of recent activity. It's like you're asking for credit, but you haven't gone a hard credit pull. But a lot of the times that's checked on. And you don't want to be inquiring, even if those inquiries can't always be seen by others. They'll know where you've been inquiring. And that's why a lot of people get declined in this market. And they think because, oh, somebody out there has to approve me, and I tried here and I tried there. I get that logic, but it doesn't make sense. Right now, you have to be more protective of your credit than anything. And a lot of these lenders, like these, usually will do a hard pull at the end. It could have been a soft pull. It may still be a soft pull to some point, and you'll know. But a lot of the times with these solutions, and it has changed, a lot of lenders in this space, not only with them, but with a lot of others, the majority of them are doing hard pulls at contract signing. So you have to understand what you're going through to that point and really understand that you need those funds. And there's not a big deal if you get a hard credit pull. Like that'll rebound in time. And if you really need the funds, like what's your opportunity cost? You're going to cry about your fees. You're going to cry about your origination fee, and then the hard pull, like when you really needed this to sustain your business. Like the cost of that, you got to look at, are you using this money to double, triple, quadruple your revenue? Are you just staying flat? That's why these are high risk files, because not a lot use it for that. You have to use this money for the opportunity of making more money with it. Can you make more than 39,000? Or let's say the 1,390, can you make 1,500? Can you make 2,000? Can you double your return from the $1,000 that you were taking? If you can't, and you're just going to be underneath and you have to pay back $1,390 in 3 months, like, of course you can't justify it. You're going to go backwards. Your cash flow is already depleted, very likely as it is, or it's going to be even more. You can't make your payments for others. You can't meet your rent. You can't meet your own personal obligations. You can't pay yourself because of that. There's a lot of reasons for it, and these are higher risk. A lot of people default on these, and it is what it is. Just take it as a grain of salt. And it'll help you as you move forward. You can get into other lenders. Probably they help you get more than what you got before. Boom, boom. I can help you with that as well. So there it is. Automatic weekly, which is great. You can sustain that. Nothing wrong with weekly or daily. Those who do have a problem with it is just not stable of a depositing frequency in the business. And it could be depending on the type of revenue, the type of money that they put into the account. Are they taking credit card statements? Are they not? A lot of retail and restaurants businesses, why do they do well with these? Is because they daily deposit. They're taking credit card payments, debit card payments, and the way that they're processing money and they're depositing every single day. They deposit a high volume as you grow your revenue. And it can be in other formats, but you see that, and they have other streams of revenue that they're collecting from. They're putting all in one day. So example number two, excuse me, automatic weekly. Other lenders, if you're doing a minimum of, let's say, okay, here's another thing too. And I'm going to scroll down here very quick. California and New York usually get denied per laws. Can't fund there with this service right now, so it won't work for these states. So what do you do if you have 3,000 and you're in these states? It won't work. Most lenders don't want to work with those who are doing less than 3,000 in revenue. There's just not really anything out there. There's grants, there's peer-to-peer lending, there's crowdfunding. Yes, there's other solutions that I can help you with, and that's why it's in your best interest to go through this questionnaire form to submit it. And you can get started from that page. If you go through and you go on the thank you page, I'll have some supplemental documentation or information. And you can get started right there. Just go through it. There might be a thank you page video. You can get started on your journey, a qualifier, quiz qualifier, or a different format. You can view more information already. And so that's what you have to understand. If you're in those states, do a minimum of 5,000. If you're doing a minimum of 5,000 and you're within those states, we'll go to another lender. If you're doing 15,000 and you're within those states, okay, we're already in another lender, in another position with multiple lenders. And there's ways of doing this where we go in directly to a brokerage. We already have direct lender partnerships with those people and those lenders, that team. But it's better to do it this way because of the flexibility, because of the market. Looking at 2 to 3 or so lenders at a time, depending on how many you want to go after your file, and the very best, while protecting your credit, and you get the very best maximum amount, terms, rates, relationship, strategic partnership, and roadmap for longer term, as opposed to just going indirectly, somebody submitting you 3 times at one point and then waiting 30 days. And then you're like, oh, okay, everything's all over the place. It's scattered. There's a time and a place for that, whether it's so precise and dialed in on one or multiple. I could do that too, but it's better a lot of the time in this market over here and all the stuff that we can do. And that gets done on the back end on review. So here it goes through that. No monthly options with any funders for this solution. 3 to 6 month terms. A lot of the times they may only do 2 to 3 months with other partnerships. 3 to 4 months, 3 to 6 month terms, or other ones might be 1 to 2 months, but 3 to 6 month terms. And the lower revenue, the higher risk you are, don't expect to get a 6-month term. Doesn't make any sense to do that. If you're above 5,000, you're getting closer to 10,000 plus. The chances of you getting 4 to 6 months are much higher than you getting the 3-month term. Renewals are usually 16 weeks, which is 4 months. More so for clients at the 3K plus minimum revenue level, and more or less. It can be less than 4 months. Like I said, again, if you're just meeting the minimum, and things always change with a lot of lenders. Personal checking account can be used for business. As mentioned, you can also have a business checking account. Online banking, we're in the digital age. Everything is fintech. Technology is changing at a rapid pace. You got to change even faster than it. No FICO credit score check for this for the majority of it. California, New York, as I said, usually get denied per laws, can't fund there with the service right now, so it won't work for these states. But if you have better credit, hey, the credit back solution, can we do a combination of a personal and business combo where it's a personal term / installment loan, perhaps a personal line of credit with personal credit cards and or business credit cards at 0% on either side? Or if it's not 0%, what can we do? One or the other. Can we do that? Can you use a credit partner if your credit isn't in position to? And if you're trying to get 0% interest business credit cards, but you have a credit partner that owns at least 10% of the business on the operating agreement, 10%, preferably more, 10 to 20% plus. But at that minimum, if they have the credit and everything that matches up, they can guarantee the credit on their side. And then later on, while there could be a balance transfer to your credit cards if your credit comes up at that time. And there's other things that there to look at. So they can use their credit to go guarantee it and help you out. And there's the personal side where they don't have to be an exact owner of a business or the business in yours or a partner, but they can go use their credit, take on a personal term installment loan, increase their frequency of repayments and shrink down the amount of payments in terms of like a high payment. It's going to be a monthly instead of a weekly. Like, is that most a benefit? Can you even get those? Use a personal loan for business. A lot of people use it in great shape. They use it for saving, for a lot of other purposes. Bank linking with Plaid, it's very reputable of a company and an app and software, and it connects with financial services of what you have, like bank statements. So it's very safe. I've done a video review. I'll try to link it to you down below, things like that, in decision logic and more. And so it's very reputable. Many companies use to make sure they do online bank linking, and they can check to make sure that the account and accounts look clean and it's not fraudulent. They won't go in there and take money out and do this and that. So you have to have your credentials ready for this. Not having a manual process is fine. It takes too much manpower for a lot of higher risk, lower revenue files. It doesn't make any sense. A lot of them go into collections default. Like, why would it make sense? The return on investment, what they would get from it, from what you would get out, like, it doesn't make much sense. And there's more details to this as well. Some banks haven't teamed up with Plaid and just don't work. Note, about 5% of banks in America don't link with Plaid, excuse me. So you may be declined if your bank doesn't link. Sometimes you have to call in, or you have to check into your mobile banking and see if there's an option to toggle something on or off, or check in with them is what I would do. Other times you might just have to go sign up with Plaid directly, and that may work where they can link your account to it. Qualifications, please read carefully before clicking the link below to get started. Again, 3,000 monthly revenue sales minimum, not just on average. So you can't have one with 1,000, 3,000, 5,000. You had a $1,000 month, like that's going to lower everything, especially average. But the $1,000 lowest month, even if it was your oldest month and your most recent ones are better, that's not looking good. And why? There's a bigger picture when that is then uncovered. And so there it is, 4 months time in business. Sometimes 3 months is what would be required to go in and start an application. But 4 months time in business is usually it. Minimal non-sufficient funds, negative days, no more than 5 non-sufficient funds, negative days in any of the last 3 months. And you got to understand that a lot of people also, even at a higher level, are bouncing checks or bouncing money. Their payments are following through. There's not enough money in the account for the lender to withdraw their payment. And you have to understand why. Maybe you have a high amount of payroll, and all you've been doing is taking money out for payroll to cover other costs and to cover your other payments if you have this. So you have to be very cautious and selective on how you use this money. Current loan consideration. If you have a current capital advance, the amount you still owe will be taken into consideration and cause a reduction in your approval amount. Don't expect that if you got 2 positions, the third one is going to be much more than the other two. Well, what are the balances on these? How much did you take? Are you over 50% paid on the both of them together? There's a 50% rule, and we can't lend more than what you already have here for the most part. And you're exceeding your monthly revenue by 16 to 18%. So we can't give you more if you haven't paid off the other ones or completely close to 100%. Like, yeah, can we then net the difference by taking a new amount and a higher amount and netting that one that's over 50%, closer to 75 to 85% plus, and you keep the difference? There's differences with that. Defaults are considered more or less. That could change over time. It's on a case-by-case basis. How it works, like I said, 25 to 75%. Trucking, a lot of the times you see 50 to 75% if it's your first time borrowing. And it's not only with this lender, but it's with higher tier revenue lenders. You could be doing 50,000, 100,000 a month, but you've never taken money like this before. 50 to 75% a lot of the time is what they're going to start you off with. It's a very high risk industry right now, as well as other ones are. So I gave you examples here on what you can walk away with more or less on these examples. So I'll just kind of quickly go through this, and I can give you a ballpark range based on your answer, based on what you submit into the questionnaire form. And this is not the exact offer. Again, this is ballpark based upon the experience that I've done myself and that I've helped out other people with. I've seen it, so I know like what would work, what wouldn't work, what could be the ranges here and there, the rates. And then there's different levels. Like I said, again, if you're not doing 50,000, don't expect to get 100 to 200% of your monthly revenue. Or if you're not in best position, you're not going to get 200%. You might start off with 50 to 75, 25 to 50, 30 to 40, 75 to 100, 175 to about 120%. And so here, there's a few things on underwriting. You can know that in time. I'll share that with you, excuse me, in time. And so you'll know the exact terms and all you're getting after you've been able to review your applications and documents. So I can't say what it'll exactly be. So well, for this one, there's no credit requirement, so that's kind of off that. And so we go through here. There's an example on a 1,500 amount at a 1.45 rate. Let's say you got underneath the 1.5. And if you got at underneath 1.5, perhaps you haven't been searching everywhere and you haven't just been applying anywhere and everywhere, just getting declined. That's also reasons why you get a higher rate. And there's other things with revenue doing well, the cash balances and everything else looks good. So let's say you get a $36 a day, but you're paying on a weekly, as this lender does, $180. Is that manageable? For most businesses, it is, especially if you have over 5,000, you have over 7,500, that can be balanced. It just depends on what would be withdrawal. Can you be able to have that money, sufficient enough money in the account that's more than just the minimum? Bi-weekly is $260, monthly $720. No, we're not asking for $1,500 or $5,000 like some of these other higher tier lenders would ask for overall, and you're paying back $2,500 to $4,500 a week. That's manageable for other businesses, not for you. So that's why it's hard to lend you more than what you could get in your range. And other times you might get like 2,500 and you got to pay back more. So it's not always as cut and dry. Everybody has a difference depending on what you qualify and don't. So here's overall total cost of financing, a little bit of that. Another example, if you were to get 1,000, here's a weekly of 120. And let's say over here at 1,500 at 4 months, 135, 1,500 at 5 months. Don't just expect that at that 1,500 amount. Normally you won't. Like, don't expect 5, 6 months all the time here. It normally won't work. But there's the payments. That's how much it draws for 440 to about 700 difference on about 300 or so. 1,500 at 6 months, 360 there. And you see a little bit more, 7,500. Let's say you're doing 10K, you get 75%, 7,500 there at a 1.39 rate on average, and you're assessed a lower risk. That's why you were given that. And so that's a $435 a week repayment. Perhaps you're paying back 2,500 at a point. Perhaps you're paying 1,500 at a point. Okay, but what is the opportunity cost of using this money? Or if let's say it's this amount, which you would get approved for, there's a little bit more there in details. They are not set in stone. Application to get started, you can see that right there, right away. Okay, that's where I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Again, we went through really quickly what you should be careful about just by searching up on Google. And it's one thing to do that and find the right source, but a lot of the times, especially if you're clicking into ads, be very, very cautious. I'm not saying I don't run my own, and I'm a very ethical person. So a lot of the times people that run into me, whether they knew me from the beginning or not and inputted their information, you'll understand my ecosystem and my culture and why it's so different than everybody else. Is very traditional, very transactional. I've read a lot of these reviews too of people who get through these companies, and whether it's good or bad, but a lot of the bad outweighs the good by a lot. And I go, oh man, all these people that I'm trying to help and save, and I'm not doing it for my best interest. I'm doing it for yours. Like I said again, it's just a byproduct. Like I know my stuff, but I want to help you in terms of who you are as a person and your health and your relationships and really help you ascend to a higher level. I've had people on a call with me. Not always is a call given though. Not because I'm introverted and I dislike calls, but I do well on them. It's just not always necessary. As what you believe to be, it's not as necessary. Believe me, there needs to be a pre-screening process a lot of the time. So I also know energy and time-wise what I'm getting myself into and investing into, not just logically, but emotionally. I've had people on calls who've cried with me. I've given them over an hour. Not that I always do. Don't expect that, but it was warranted and it was needed for some moments. But people have cried and just so thankful, and they walk away with that with so much more high-level calls that I don't even charge on that I could be charging on, getting through things more. And you just get out of it like, wow, like you walk out of these things more ready and prepared to understand who you're working with, not the who of the business. Yeah, you can understand viral funding solutions in my business and why it exists. You'll get that information if you haven't already, but who, as in the person, myself, are you working with? Somebody who's very loyal, who values character, who values an above average standard, who will not be sleazy, who will not use these tactics. And very lastly, I went to school and educated myself. I studied a bit of sociology, played a little bit of Division I soccer. Not genetically gifted. I've always had the heart. Always had this up here. Always had to. I don't want to use the word outsmart, but outthink my opponents and be a couple steps ahead in the classroom, outside the classroom. And things have changed. And I wasn't the best academic. Like in the beginning, my third grade, I even got held back. I'll give you that. I normally don't share that. Not that I was a bad student, but it's just like some concepts. And after that, I started to learn more, learn more, learn more. I've had my failures going, going. And then I got better. I refined my skill sets. And that's how you do it. You do things that you're not comfortable with doing, but you do them anyways. And you know you're gonna grow from it, not just to do it because you're just doing it and it's not you. I mean, you haven't uncovered and discovered the real you, so you got to do that to grow in that uncomfort zone. That's different. But understanding that and being able to grow from it. And then also I did a bit of got into the chemical engineering courses and did that a bit. I transitioned into that. I'm a very math system minded person. And then I made a big decision after some time doing that I wanted to start my business, of course. And so I had to make a big decision. I got into the business side, went there, got the degree, worked in construction, manufacturing. I was a ramp agent. I was in warehousing, did other positions, not because I was unstable, but you figure out everything. Not everything in life is linear. But I did that, was working with my hands, got into machines, got into the field, and then got into the cubicle space, eventually working in the financial logistics position, data, inventory management, control shipping and receiving departments, coordinating things with the trucks out there from a desk, doing a lot of budgeting and ordering analysis, also moving media boxes for a large contracting company servicing HP and Peace Health. But I couldn't move up a level. Person in front of me that I thought would retire would. I was immensely underpaid, undervalued, and I stuck in it for a lot of stability reasons. And I thought I would move up a level, didn't happen. Company went down under. I had to go back on unemployment benefits and food stamp cards. Not a very good feeling at all. Introvert me couldn't even show up when I did. EBT, like I couldn't even look person in the eyes, just happy to walk out. But I knew in my back of my mind that I'd have to come back and do it again. Even when I could look, I was just like for a moment. And so I did that too because I knew I had a position where I could then grow. I knew that I had a place now where I can develop the business, and I put my head down and I worked in a digital marketing agency, lead generation business. And I got into the health affiliate marketing space around the same time and I grew those. And so that happened. And I just didn't want to continue feeling like a letdown to my family, feeling like when we went out for a meal, like even just paying 50% of it or none, or if all of it, like feeling guilty, burdened, even when they wouldn't tell you that. Like just didn't want to feel that anymore in me. So I just had to make that change. But a lot of things happened, and from there, just continuously putting the skill set behind the desire, behind the interest, and grew into a passion and helping you guys understand and helping you grow your own self economy as well as the economy externally out there in your community, because you are the driving force and the community impact that I see, especially in smaller communities where there's not many shops or little things that they can turn to and go to. You gave them a sense of relief. It's not even what they like got out of the like product or service or the good. It's like the sense of relief. It's the status of them ascending to a better health and a relationship through that. And so you've been able to do that in the face on you and your clients and your employees and the people around your business. I see the differences that are made in that. So that is everything from me. Again, be cautious of what's out there. You got this. You see the questionnaire form. Went over that quite a bit. There might be some options that evolve in time, but if you want to get a full amount of information on what are all these options, the details to them, and you have different options, perhaps you do a couple at a time or one, and then you move into the next one. What I would recommend, you have a roadmap, a conclusion on what I would do in that PDF and a lot of other places. Like you get shown like what we can start off with and ascend to. This would be your best route. So don't let that opportunity go to waste. Just imagine having the funds in the account. What would it feel like if you didn't have that? I'm not saying what would your business look like, but what would you feel like if you did not have it? You wouldn't feel as confident. You wouldn't feel certain about it. You wouldn't feel like you were in, quote unquote, like they say, the game, get in the game. You would be outside externally looking in, like looking at a window, you're just going window shopping. Or like Kermit the Frog when it's raining. You've seen that meme? He's looking outside. I think it's Kermit. Yeah, and the rains are just dropping, you feel so depressed and unmotivated by doing anything. You don't want to be felt that way and just sitting on your couch while you watch the TV. You don't want to feel, you don't want to watch the TV. You just want the feeling of entertainment, the dopamine hits. You don't want that. But you sit there and you go through it day in and day out. And you feel like you can't even get out of bed in the mornings because of it. You don't feel the fire. You don't feel that. You don't have the funds and you lost your opportunity because things always change in this market. And if you don't go to the right person, that's it. That's as damaging as it gets right there already. And a lot of people who do come to me too have already tried other options or they haven't. And I'm gonna be the only and last resort for a lot of people. Or I'm gonna be the only destination for them if they make the right decision. There are other options depending on what you qualify for. But you don't want to be left out wondering what if I didn't try that. Oh, I obviously could have got better here because for the majority of the times I beat the majority of offers that are out there in a very ethical way. And it's done very precisely and with your care in mind and understanding that you need a peace of mind at the end of the day. When you rest your head on your pillow and you go back to work, we're taking care of you. Okay, so that's everything. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with others who you feel will find value from it. It can be a complete stranger, a friend, or a family member. And if you have not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe and click on that bell notification. But I didn't say subscribe right. I think I said subscribe. That's why it threw me off. Click on the subscribe button and click on the bell notification icon, please, so you do not miss any future content on no credit check business loans, or not just no credit check, but credit check business loans, all these other things that usually you would require a personal guarantee. And that's just fine. That's what is given and that's what is asked for at the end of the day with anything for the majority of it. And if you were looking for no doc business credit cards in this, like you're going to have to go get corporate cards, you have higher revenue, cash balances and reserves, liquidity, average daily bank balances, and that's just hard to get. And you have to have a lot of employees, and not just that, but you got to meet asset requirements and a lot of other things if they ask for. And it's just going to take a bit to do that, where they would just look at an EIN. You got to evolve into these things in time. So that's everything from me. I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Oh, and the other thing too, like there's account receivable financing where normally credit requirements aren't what you need to go through, and they'll check the credit of your client or your customer who you've invoiced and who's paying. And so that's the credit that a lot of these invoice factoring companies will check. So there are collateral solutions. You can mix them or you can go for one of them, but there are other ones out there. We can go through collateral. You have developable land, you have commercial real estate or investment real estate that you own, equipment, heavy equipment, what type of equipment. Can we do it with commercial vehicles at a specific time? What are the rates? We can go through all that in time. So you can use a leverage, you can leverage a credit partner, you can use somebody else who is wanting to help you in your business, whether they're in it or not, or if they have to get in it to secure some type of funding. Okay, that's one thing. But that's everything from me. Look in the description to get started, and I will talk to you on the next one. Take care. Bye.